Good evening. A young man was shot and killed and five other persons shot and injured when gunmen opened fire at patrons at a bar in Germantown, St. James last night. The dead man has been identified as 21-year-old Garrett Leslie, otherwise called Hush, who is unemployed of Backwood in the community. Five other men who were also shot and injured in the incident remain in hospital in serious but stable condition. Reports by the police are that about 5:30 p.m., Leslie and the five other men were drinking at a shop located in Pimento Hill, Germantown, when a white Toyota Vitz drove into the community. Three men alighted from the vehicle and opened fire on the patrons at the bar, hitting Leslie and the five other men. The gunmen escaped in a waiting motor car. When the shooting subsided, residents alerted the police, who rushed to the scene, and the injured men were rushed to the Cornwall Regional Hospital, where Leslie was pronounced dead and the other men admitted to hospital in serious but stable condition. Since the start of the year, over 162 persons have been murdered across the parish of St. James, which recorded 4 murders over the past 3 days. Mello TV News visited the area and spoke with the family members who expressed concern and grief about the incident.
Garrett was a jovial person. Joke, joke, um, joke kind, humble, hardworking. Jesus! He love me work. Every morning he get up and go and do work. And then kill this first cousin. I tell you so we don't have time for rest. And my cousin. We love Garrett. Garrett have manners. Garrett have respect to little pitney, big people. You understand? Garrett go for any work, and if you know go and work, you have your little bush when farming ginger. Can plant ginger. Right now he plant back ginger, and he have ginger the dig same way. You understand? And he love his work. You understand? And people around the community love Garrett. Garrett no talk. Garrett no give problem. If you see him come and he say Evelyn, you can hardly hear what I say. As him so humble, I can't believe. He gone. We there, the moon feel. Yeah, we there, the moon feel. We not start moon feel. About in the last month, one gone, we not even bury it. And this one again.
As far as I'm concerned, so right now, I don't see the police officer. I don't see
No,
them
sir.
nothing.
No, sir. Don't go one year say dead, then come jar yellow tape.
Because as they arrest them, they let them
Then
out.
let them out. Up to the last one, the one that then kill first. Then say if they kill 10 more, then still a come to them. You
As they arrest
understand?
them, they let them out.
You
Because
understand?
them don't see nobody come say I see.
I see. I mean, I tell you, say, we can't go show up and say I see, because them a kill all of the I see them. You understand? All of the witness them a try to kill them. So if we ever see them, we are afraid. We go witness against them. And then they come hunt with them, they come kill we. Understand? So we are fear living in a backward right now. And we don't have nowhere to go. We don't have nowhere to go, so we have to just there living in fear until. Because as far as me see, Uncle God alone can help you run. So Uncle him alone can help you.
The government of Jamaica recently declared that it will be passing a second gun amnesty, which allows for persons owning a firearm which is not registered, or persons who know the whereabouts of illegal firearms and may want to turn them over to the police can be free to do so without facing a prison sentence. The gun amnesty was recently tabled in Parliament with the approval of the Prime Minister, but can only be carried out under certain guidelines within the law. Councillor for Montego Bay North East, Senator Charles Sinclair, told reporters during an interview today that as part of the committee proposed the gun amnesty, he can clearly state that there is a section of the Firearms Act which was recently passed in Parliament which allows for the minister to give an amnesty.
There's a section in the Firearms Bill that was passed in Parliament that allows for the minister to give an amnesty. The Prime Minister has indicated in clear terms that he will cause for the amnesty to be implemented. Now, the amnesty, there are conditions to an amnesty. that has not been settled or worked out, and that would not be contained in the legislation. So that's the first thing persons must appreciate. It is going to be worked out by the Minister of National Security and obviously with the consent of the Cabinet as to what the conditions of the amnesty will be. But in brief, what I am looking at and figure will happen is that if persons are in possession of an illegal firearm, that means a firearm that is not registered by the firearm licensing authority, then they will have an opportunity. They can walk to the police station and hand it in, and the police cannot prosecute them.
Mr. Sinclair explained the conditions of the amnesty, which he said will give persons an opportunity to walk to the police station, turn over that illegal firearm on condition without being prosecuted.
If you're locking a gun, you can walk to the police station and give it in when the amnesty is declared. You can walk to your pastor, you can walk to your political representative and turn over the firearm for them to take it into the police. Now, why I appreciate an amnesty being given is to give to persons an opportunity in order to put themselves on the right track. And it is not just giving in the firearm that the administration is looking at as putting a person on the right track. There are several training opportunities. So in this community of Flanker, we have the training center at Churchill, which is up and running and training persons. We have the military academy, which is open and persons can do significant types of training, including learning how to drive motor trucks and so forth, and fix equipment and so forth. So opportunity comes. So when you put them all together, you can see the benefit of persons moving from being in a situation where they may have a firearm, locking a firearm on the side of um, an illegal activity, and to being brought into the mainstream and getting trained and so forth, right? So the amnesty, I support it. Give the persons an opportunity to turn around themselves without any prosecution.
He further pointed out that guns kill and cause injuries and hurt.
Guns have no other purpose other than to kill and maim. Has no other purpose. You can't use a gun and catch a door. You can't use a gun like how you use a plastic jug. If the ketchup come out of it, you can put water in it and put it in your freezer. Gun have no other purpose more than to kill and maim. And when, as I said, you kill one person, you don't just kill the person, you can kill a family, you can kill a community. And just the mere fact of having a firearm, it puts the youngsters in a different realm, as if they can say, it is my almighty power. Right? So let us take it from them and turn them another way without them facing prosecution. But if they don't give it up, they are arrested. Then what is certain is that the sentence is going to be long. And nobody wants to go to prison for 15 years, minimum, and higher. Because a judge can look on your antecedents and say to you, you are a problem to the community. So I'm not giving you the minimum, I'm giving you 20 because it goes up to life, right? So the judge can look on the circumstances and make a harsher sentence to that individual, but the minimum thing. So again, in brief, I support the amnesty.
In a Mello TV news update, wanted man and recent lockup escapee Rudolph Boxer Shaw was killed in a confrontation with the police on the weekend. Another man who was with Shaw at a guest house in St. Andrew was also killed. The police say 2 guns were seized following the incident and a woman has been arrested. According to police detectives from the Constabulary's Counter-Terrorism and Organized Crime Investigations Branch, CTOC, tracked Shaw to a guest house off Malines Road in St. Andrew. According to reports, Shaw and the other man opened fire at the police when they swooped down on their location at the guest house. The police say Shaw and the other man were both shot and injured. The police say a .45 pistol and a 9mm pistol were seized during the incident. The woman who has been taken into custody was reportedly in the company of the men at the time of the operation. Shaw became St. Catherine's most wanted man following a series of murders in the St. Catherine North Police Division early this year. He was allegedly the leader of the wildlife gang. He reportedly fled the island while being pursued by the Joint Anti-Gang Task Force. However, he was deported back to Jamaica in July after being arrested in the Cayman Islands. His escape from the Central Kingston lockup last week prompted a high-level investigation by the constabulary force. Jamaica hosted the 24th meeting of CARICOM's Council of Ministers of National Security and Law Enforcement, which was also attended by police commissioners from across the region. That national security ministers from across the Caribbean met for 3 days in Jamaica on the weekend. CARICOM's Council of Ministers of National Security and Law Enforcement is responsible for the coordination of a multidimensional nature of security to ensure a safe and stable CARICOM. Jamaica is currently serving as chair of the body. In his address to the Council, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of National Security, Dr. Horace Chang, says the gathering is crucial in addressing transnational crime that is seriously impacting several regional countries.
Honourable Ministers, it is pivotal for us as CARICOM member states to meet at this time, given the complex and extensive challenges that are facing the region. There are indeed several burning issues in the security arena that need our attention as collective. This meeting will allow us to examine solutions to these challenges with a singular focus, as well as to explore ways to strengthen existing frameworks and partnership. At our 23rd meeting in February 22, there were 4 areas identified that are of common security interest to member states. These are, at the very top, firearms trafficking, cybersecurity, trafficking in person, and maritime security. These areas of focus will continue to be underpinned by critical areas of information, intelligence sharing, and border security. These common threats have the potential to dismantle any gains we make as regions in achieving our sustainable development goals. Trafficking in persons, for example, results in the most vulnerable in our region being exploited into forced labor, sexual servitude, and debt bondage. The latest UN Office on Drugs and Crime Global Report on Trafficking in Persons show that around 1/3 of all detected victims are children, a share that has tripled over the past 15 years. Indeed, we can all agree that renewed and reinvigorated action against this crime is needed more than ever as economic hardship, conflict, and health and climate emergencies globally are increasing and compounding vulnerabilities to trafficking, exploitation, and abuse.
Dr. Chang said the region is also confronted by issues related to cybersecurity and general maritime security, which are major strategic issues to be examined and to ensure greater collaboration among all Caribbean countries.
The issue of illicit firearms trafficking was identified as a Tier 1 threat in the Caribbean region security strategy as one of the main drivers of criminality levels in the region. It has the potential to cripple the already fragile socioeconomic development progress in CARICOM and the advancement of the CSME. None of our countries manufacture firearms, and yet the ill effects of their proliferation and the contribution to gang violence and transnational criminal activities permeates our respective territories and are responsible for over 70% homicides in the Caribbean, or more than 70% of the homicides in the CARICOM. It's within this context that it is important to disrupt and prevent illegal firearms and ammunition passing through our borders. Note, welcome our friend from Barbados. Honourable Ministers, while I recognize and appreciate the individual efforts made in addressing these security threats, the critical areas identified have been our greatest challenges as a region. At the national level, this has led to increased budgetary allocation, investments, and manpower in an already tight fiscal space. As Minister of National Security and security experts, we not only have a duty, but a responsibility to ensure that our resources are efficiently and appropriately managed. Research, analysis, and monitoring of activities, initiatives are effectively conducted, and that there is real tangible value in the partnerships we forge at the national and regional levels. We must therefore seek to strengthen our relationship across member states so that the existing silos can be addressed.
Assistant Secretary General for Human and Social Development at the CARICOM Secretariat, Alison Drayton, in her remarks says the intensification and diversification of risks and threats to CARICOM are occurring against the backdrop of fundamental shifts to the wider global environment. She further noted that the meeting presented the opportunity to strengthen countries' cooperation and shared responsibility to safeguard and preserve the peace, security, and socio-economic development of CARICOM nations and citizens.
That the issues of security are related not just to, as it were, the protection of our borders in a society, but lead directly to the issues of economic growth and development. If the region is not seen as safe, one of our primary industries, tourism, will fall off, and we are all dealing with the continuing loss of many of our citizens as they leave as they see it, more profitable and safer professions elsewhere. So both from a security perspective and a development perspective, our work here is critical.
The opposition People's National Party, PNP, says the government's demolition of houses at Bernard Lodge in St. Catherine last Thursday is a blatant disregard for the tenets of the United Nations Convention on Human Rights and supporting international conventions to which Jamaica is a party. The opposition further notes that forced evictions constitute gross violations of a range of internationally recognized human rights. The PNP says it is the obligation of a government to ensure that a proper framework is in place to facilitate the ease of access and ownership of property. The PNP, in a statement issued by the chairman of the party's Human Rights Commission, Isat Buchanan, says notwithstanding the various assertions as to how the residents obtained the property, the very fact that their actions were open, transparent, and in the public requires a different and humane approach by the government. The opposition is calling on the Andrew Holness-led administration to remember its obligation under the United Nations Human Rights Convention to which it is a signatory. Mr. Buchanan says the demolition of homes, especially without the service of adequate notice and an opportunity to be heard, is especially egregious as it was led by the government. He adds that the forced eviction and removal of persons have only served to separate and alienate individuals from their families, homes, and communities. The Human Rights Commission of the PNP is calling on the Prime Minister, who is also the Minister with responsibility for land and housing, to ensure the demolition and talk with the residents with the view of returning the lost property. Minister of Information Robert Morgan this morning announced that the 50 garbage trucks that were promised by the government are currently on their way to Jamaica. In a statement this morning, Minister Morgan said that due to the COVID-19 pandemic, funds had to be diverted from purchasing 100 trucks, and now the government is coming back on track with 50 of the 100 trucks to arrive this month. And those are the stories making the news this evening. I'm Nicole Hales. Thanks for watching.